SCP-001, colon, 05. SCP-001 is an O5's tale. Good evening, Doctor. No, no, don't stand up. Yes, I am who you think I am. I'll make more of this than it is. You know my number. I know enough about you to make it duplicate that even your mother wouldn't be able to tell apart the real you. No, that's not a threat. Just a fact. Now, as to my business here, it seems they've stumbled upon something above your clearance. Well, no, stumbled is not the right word. Dug up, perhaps. You're getting to the point where further digging would end in some fairly lethal gunshot wounds. It's be a sad state of its affairs, as you are otherwise a good researcher. Therefore, you were getting somewhat very few people in the Foundation ever get an explanation. Yes, we are alerted that you started digging into SCP-001. Every researcher who's been around for a while looks into it. Most are satisfied when they uncover the angle with the flaming sword. It's buried under enough levels. Then you start looking to the factory. That's when I knew you wouldn't stop. So here it is, plain and simple. The factory is SCP-001, but it will never be written up. It was a choice I made early on the creation of the Foundation, and a choice I will stand by. You researchers are far too curious. I'm sure which scares me worse, that we'll never understand the factor, or that one day we will. Well, sure eager to learn more. The factory was built in 1835, back when it was known as the Anderson Factory, named after James Anderson, rather well-to-do industrial. It was built, well, we'll say, in America. It's the largest factory yet designed, a good mile across at its width, 3 stories tall throughout, with a special 7-story tower by the front gate that Anderson lived in. It was designed to be the ultimate factory, capable of taking care of everything, including the housing of workers. People could be born, work, live, and die, without ever leaving the confines of the factory. And work they did, on everything from cattle raising and slaughtering to textiles and everything else under the sun. Now, no one knows whether James Patterson was actually a saint worshipper, just likely that he followed some sort of pagan god. What is known is that he was very exact in the building of his factory, and the placement of his machinery within it. Survivors claim the floor was engraved with arcane symbols that were only visible when blood flowed across them. But then the survivors claimed a lot of things. What is known is that Anderson made his money in the blood and sweat, and sometimes body parts of the lower class. His journals indicate he thought of them as less than human, being put on this earth only to serve his will. Of course, at that time, no one knew about his predilections, and no people flocked to the factory. Place to both work and live at the same time. Of course, people wanted in. Never mind the harsh hours, working conditions, sadistic security force, and all the rest. Factory workers were forced to work 16 hours a day, work only shutting down on Sundays between sunrise and sunset. Workers were not given individual rooms, instead sharing rooms with 8 other people, sleeping in shifts of 3. Medical attention was unheard of. If you were injured in the course of your duties, which most people were, you expected to just keep working. Anyone too injured at work was dragged off by the security, never to be heard from again. For 40 years, the Anderson factory cracked out all sorts of things for people. Meat, clothes, weapons, never mind the beef might be mixed with humans. Don't care that the weapons were forged in blood. No attention needed to be paid if the clothes were dyed with, well, you get the idea. Rumors leaked out, but the products were so good, why bother? Until someone got out. I never met the brave soul who managed to escape, but she managed to meet with President Grant, and in 1875 he enlisted my aid. At the time, I was, well, it doesn't matter. We'll say I was military. Kind of, but my people were the same. 150 good men and a few women that were often given jobs that weren't supposed to be common knowledge. Open to cleaning out some Confederate holdouts and some of the worst things we found in the South. So we did some research. Didn't like what we saw. Went in, loaded it off bare. Don't actually remember much from that. From the night it all went down, most of it blends together in my head. I get flashes, sometimes the people chained in line, living next to the dead. Damned hard to tell which was which. Children working underneath machines, the majority of the flesh scored the bones of the great wheels and cogs and other things. No, I'm alright. I haven't thought of that night for a very long time. Security force wasn't much of a problem. When Anderson's creation showed up, he'd been taking the injured workers and experimenting on them. Men, if you could call them men, with multiple arms sewn together, some of them combined with the animals, horrible monstrosities, other mankind's worst nightmares. They kept coming, wave after wave, and not quite living creatures. I lost good people that night, and we found Anderson's breeding pits, girls as young as 8, chained to the walls, forced to be nothing more than... I'm sorry. Even today, more than a century later, the memory makes me see red. When we finally found Anderson cowering in his office, we hung him from his tower window on his own entrails. As he died, he laughed, saying it doesn't matter. We could kill him, but his factory, the factory, would go on. He was still laughing 24 hours later when we finally cut him down, had him drawn and quartered, and then burned the remains. Near time, he uttered blasphemy that I don't like to think about. Spent weeks cleaning that place out, freeing the weakers, putting down the things we found in the basements and many lightless rooms. Pulled out things that were useful, stocked them in the house near the gate. Tried to make sense of everything. 150 of us went in that pit of hell one night, and only 93 came out. By the end of the week, we were just down to 71. But things we found there, my God. Well, we've been with the Foundation a while. They won't seem as amazing to you, but we found toy guns that shot real bullets, a yo-yo that would flay the skin from another if touched, hammers that only worked on human flesh, a breed of skeletal horses that ran faster than anything we'd ever seen, cloaks that seemed woven from the night itself and let men across a shadowy dimension that. I get away from myself. Found tools both wondrous and horrible, and we were faced with a choice. I gathered my highest ranking, we'll call them officers to me, and we tried to figure out what we could do. They all had opinions. The captains had gone a little crazed, thought all these objects must have been miracles sent from God, holy relics to be worshipped. Marshall and his little toady Dawkins thought this was a fortune we were making, selling these things to the highest bidder. The engine, we called it base. Due to this deep-speaking voice, he called these things an abomination, declared that we should hunt down and destroy everything we could find. Smith thought we should take stuff back to the president, the only one opinion. I thought an opinion was an old man, but he never said much of anything. Anyways, we argued for hours, days, trying to work it out. Me, I thought we were sitting on a gold mine, all right. But that could be used to these things. These objects to hunt down some of the scary things we run to down south, the monstrosities this world had to offer. Use the factory for good. This place contained these things. Find a way to make them work for our fellow man, at least protect our fellow man from having to deal with it. I'm sure you can figure out what happened. The chaplain snuck away at the night of his devotees, taking a couple of items with him. Marshall we kicked out when we found him, abusing his authority. He promised he'd get revenge on that little Dawkins shit, led the rest of the group off with some sort of juicer items base. These people tried to light the whole damn thing on fire, then just left it when it didn't work. Smith left. Report back to the president. I did manage to get him to promise me he'd tell Grant the factory had been destroyed. I had big plans for that place. Of course, it was kind of hard to follow the big plans when you have only 12 people to work with, and it was the start. And it worked for a while. We had amazing toys. Finding people to work with us with ease back then, going off the grid was as simple as leaving town. We knew what we wanted. We knew what we could be. Leventhal set out to getting us banking. A simple invention here, some well-invested money there. It all worked out. Wayne Jones said to get us going, us other backing. Previous work found some interesting things about PO's secrets that powerful men didn't want to get out, and in our own new position, helping keep secrets. We've got more people asking us to deal with their secrets. Blackmail's a dirty word, but it works. Bright, Argent, and Luxianium got to work cataloging the items. Leighton Bright's wife, the nurse, they made sure we kept ourselves healthy. Now it's just remembering Light. She had such unusual ideas about hygiene for the time. Brilliant woman. Cezok, Flitches, and Karnoff dealt with training the troops. Tesla and Tamlin were in charge of figuring out how to take advantage of the items without making it obvious. We were amazing. City we built around the factory, which we took from calling site Alpha, was self-supporting. Agents, researchers, operations of all sorts. Not by those names, of course, but those positions we expanded. I'm sorry. I am an old man. I know I do not look it, but the body lies. The mind doesn't always remember right. Sometimes I get lost in my memories. Things get confused, but the look of the long simple was this. We used the factory. We seem to have more empty rooms to store things in. Back then, that was the word for those things. No skips then, no. I thought we had factory tamed. That's one of the reasons I refused to quit this job. Is there anything I can do here to remind people that we will never tame these things? Contain them, yes, but we saw with able. Tame them? Never. After a decade or so, we were pretty organized. The 13 original of us were being called by numbers, not names. We knew how to make things work. And if things were due to vanish inside the factory still, in the occasional D-class, what? Yes, we had D-class back then, disposables. That's where the D comes from. They had someone test things on. Tesla, Talman were both very firm about this. But yeah, sometimes we lost people who didn't matter. Sorry. Dr. Bright was fond of saying it was the factory taking its toll. You can't get something for nothing. 1911 was when it was all wrong. Things, we called them fairies. An entire race of things living beside us. They could look at the same thing, you and I, and only obvious difference was an allergy to iron. Yes, that's why we called them fairies. No, you haven't heard of them. Why? Because it's the one time the Foundation wiped down an entire race of things. Robot, root, and branch. And I'm the one who did it. I've been hunting them for some time. We'd run to them a time or two before they came out on top. So when our certain royal asked us for help, of course we were here to get rid of them for our debt. We'd always loved having people in our debt. We sent a team to help out, take care of what we thought was a hunting party. Next time we saw them, their heads were on poles attached to saddles in the creatures the fairies rode, and they attacked the factory. It was horrible. 3 words, but they conveyed it so much. I have never. I'm sorry. Please give me a moment. I never told this part to anyone. You can consider yourself lucky. If you ever tell anyone about what I'm about to impact you, I'll not just kill you, but everyone who shares your DNA in the worst ways possible. You'll think Procedure 110 Montauk was the walk in the park compared to what I'd do to you. We lost. Things came, they destroyed us. Rode over our emplacements, slaughtered our people, shrugging off our weapons like they were nothing. Watched my 13 go down, left and right, just trying to hold the factory. And I, their leader, their friend, their father figure, godfather of the Brights, for young children, confident, sometimes lover, always the confessor. I ran like a scared little schoolboy, deep into the dark guts of the factory. I was chased by things always just one step ahead. I didn't hear them behind me for the breath upon my neck, and I came to a door I'd never seen before. Bronze door covered in Arabic script of some sort. Never been one for languages, especially not the curvy bullshit the Muslim men use. But I didn't care. They were coming for me, and I threw the door open and dived through it. Everything inside was different. There was a feeling of peace, that nothing could hurt me here. The light was dark red, but it felt right. My ears were filled with the steady thumping of a gigantic heartbeat in front of me, were the remains of Anderson. It spoke to me then, to be damned if I tell you exactly what it said. But it told me there was more meaning than exact. It offered me hope. It told me each one of these things we'd used in the factory, no matter what we did to them, fed it, helped it grow. But if the fairies took the factory, they would destroy it. And we couldn't have that. It offered me a deal. I could remove this event, make it like it never happened. All I needed to give it was us. I didn't want to. I knew it was a bad idea, but then I saw them again. My family, my friends, dead. Dead by the hands of those bastards. I agreed. I smiled and I found myself once more on the ramparts, watching the horde of the fairies crest the hill. My foundation alive once more. In my hands was a weapon. I won't bore you with the details, but we slaughtered them. Those new weapons continued to slaughter them. Everywhere we lived, everywhere they bred, my fellow O5s questioned my decision, thinking we could save some, in case we might ever need them. I overruled them. Moved away from the factory, shut it down, moved our things out of there. Changed the name from the things to Special Containment Procedures. Focuses on containing them, not anything else. The others were curious, but understood I had my reasons. I boarded up the factory, locked it shut, buried it under a ton of rubble. This thing was too dangerous, I thought. Thought I'd given away with it. Until I found things on my desk. One of the old toy guns that shot real bullets, and it had the factory label on it. I sent people in time to time to see what it might be doing. Last time I sent people in, look, there was nothing. I keep finding factory items out there. Can't help but think of how many more we don't know. People who use them and keep it hidden. I think back to the body telling me how much item used gave energy to the factory. I never asked it energy for what. I don't think I want to know. What do we give it? D-class, mostly. Where did you think all those bodies went? There's a place. Bodies are left and they vanish. Everyone thinks I'm a genius for figuring out sometimes. Sometimes I've defeated other things. Researchers, agents. They never know what's coming. Just reaches out and takes them. On the end, we're doing more good by being here. Whatever the factory wants, whatever it is, we're doing good here. I have to believe that. And you know what? Are you happy? I don't think so. Why tell you? I'm getting old, Everett. Should I die? Someone will have to keep feeding it. Maybe you'll be different. Maybe you'll figure out how to stand up to it. But I doubt it.